Wow, this is kind of intimidating. Thank you so much, Todd, that was a really nice introduction. He's right, I am super in love with my family, and I love to be outside, and I also dabble in the Google-ishness of all of this, right? So thank you again to York for having us out. We're excited. You know, we're going to get to talk about a lot of things that we're passionate about in our sessions, and I was looking at some of the things that are going to be in the sessions that you guys are presenting on, and so I'm kind of bummed I'm not going to be able to go to those, but I will be popping around in that first session, so I hope to maybe catch something there. So when the idea came, or when I was proposed to do the keynote for this event, I sent Jim a couple ideas, a couple descriptions, and one of the ones that came out, he said, you know, this one sounds pretty interesting. And I was like, I haven't done this one in a while, but this will be fun, right? I used to call it LOLs and PDAs, learning out loud and public displays of required knowledge, right? But I got rid of that because only half the room left. Just kidding. But I am excited, and I'm just going to try to kind of hit the ground running with this keynote particularly. There's a lot of things that I'm going to talk about and share, not the least of which is kind of this paradigm shift that Todd touched on, that Jim mentioned as well. This idea that, you know, connecting what we're doing in our classrooms and then kind of putting that into overdrive or giving it rocket boosts with technology. You know, great teachers are great teachers, whether they're using technology or they're sitting in a parking lot shoulder to shoulder with a child, right? And that now we have the ability to do things better, faster, kind of stronger, and we can really empower children with this technology, and I think that that's kind of what my biggest takeaway is from the classroom. Hey, all right. Could we get, is there any way to dim some of the lights? I just don't want the slides to wash out. I have no problem pimping out my kids for pictures for two reasons. One, I'm like madly in love with them, right? And then two, pictures are expensive to buy, and I don't like stealing them, so I'll just use mine. But this is kind of when I think about a camp or an event like this, especially on a Saturday, it's almost like, let's throw our hands up, we're going down the roller coaster, woo, there is going to be so much kind of awesomeness. You're going to get 110% of your daily intake of awesome throughout these sessions today. And I just hope that if at any time you feel overwhelmed or kind of like overloaded, please push away from the buffet. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm full. Too much input, you know, and step away. But I'm excited. This is going to be a wild ride for us. This is me. I work for an ed tech team, former 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 6th grade teacher, and then central administrator with Denver Public Schools in Colorado. We helped launch, in Jefferson County Public Schools, we helped launch an 87,000 student and 12,000 staff Google Apps environment back in '09. And so then I went over to the PD side of the world with a different district, and now I'm here with you guys. I'm the director of PD for ed tech team, which means that I get to work really closely with tech directors, IT directors, and stuff around customizing professional learning for you guys, and also kind of these big summits. If you, who here was in Kitchener? Who came to the Ontario Summit? A couple of us? Right on. It's all you guys in the front row. We host these global summits around the world. Last week we were in South Korea, a couple weeks ago we were in Singapore, today we're in York, we're going to be in Stanton, Virginia in a couple days, but it's not just the travel, because it's hard to be away from my kids, and Todd mentioned that, you know, I do love to bring them with me as much as possible, but it's because I actually love working with teachers. I'm a huge advocate for us, for our jobs, for our careers, and you'll get that out of my talk today, but I just want you to know that as awesome as it is to be able to jet set and fly and do that, I do it because I really like sitting kind of shoulder to shoulder and learning with you all as well. This was my last classroom. I see it and I, you know, kind of get emotional, right? But it was one of those things where, you know, we were doing so much, they were doing so much awesome stuff. I was kind of just sitting shotgun that the district started to take notice. And that's kind of what happens. When you start to empower children with these tools, these technologies, this access to research and information and each other, it changes everything. It changes your role as a teacher, and it changes their roles as children and students as well. And that's really what it's all about. It's all about the children, right? Who's here for a reason other than kids today? Somebody's like, I'm getting credit. I need a pay raise. No. But it's all about the kiddos, and I think that's really important. And so when I'm talking about the elements of a LOL, or a learning out loud classroom, there's kind of 4 key buckets that I think that we need to be able to fill, or we need to at least anchor to when we're talking about both the design of our physical and the design of our kind of virtual spaces. And the first thing is, you guys, we need caring and compassionate adults. We need people that really love kids. Not the least of which reason is because we see them oftentimes more than their parents do, right? We see kids 40 hours a week. Dad gets home at 6, 7. He's not going to see his son or his daughter that much. Take advantage of that time. It's really important. And the other part is education is forever. You ignite a child's love of learning. You empower a child with learning, and they're going to want to stay connected to not just you, to not just their peers, but to the information and the access. One of the sweetest lessons I learned from teaching and from the classroom is that you never stop being a kid's teacher. You never stop being that child's teacher. From the first day of school when they run into you in the grocery store and they're like, oh my God, Mom, he eats Wheaties too, right? To 5 years down the line, they're going to be super excited to see you still. You're still going to be Mr. or Mrs. what have you, my ex-teacher. Don't ever think about it as like on that last day of school, and as much as we love to just be like, peace, it's summer, thank you, right? Don't forget, though, that they're still going to look at you and anchor to you. So if you run into them, please don't hide. Don't turn your back, unless you're somewhere that you don't want them to know that you're there. Just kidding, just kidding. We're in Canada. We don't do that. You also need passionate and curious. And I almost put infinitely curious, right? That idea of like, there's never an answer to the question, especially when you start to think about Googling it. We can always Google it, but that should be the start of the next question or the next idea. There's a lot of talk about rigor. What does rigor look like? How do we assess rigor? And for me, I think rigor is when an adult and a child chase learning together, and you bring that child along that journey and show them what it looks like to become a researcher and inquirer and to be infinitely curious. That's rigorous for me, And then we'll see it. It has to be authentic learning opportunities. That's the capacity and the no fear of failure is a big part of that. The idea of taking what they're learning and being able to directly apply it to their real life, but also that hands-on, As we get deeper and deeper into the technology, it gets really easy for us and for the kids to stop putting their hands on stuff, right? We have to be able to do that, whether that's just even thinking about it or if it's actual tactile, that authentic kind of like hands-on learning, getting them in there, letting them see. Science is great at this, but every subject can do this, right? And so making sure that we really engage and we put kids in an environment where, oh, that's what it's like to be eaten by Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? And then, to Todd's point, after this, that idea of like connections and sharing. If you're going to be learning out loud, then that means that you're going to be sharing out loud. And all of us are kind of nodes on this huge network, right? This idea that I know what I know because I've been able to, like, say, sit in one of Bill's session, or somebody tweeted something and that sent me down the rabbit hole of inquiry and questions. But connections and sharing and then pushing that stuff out, that's the LOL kind of aspect that I really want to stress for us today. All right. So the technology itself. This idea that any sufficiently advanced tech is indistinguishable from magic. This is a Google Doodle, by the way. But it really is. And one of Google's key axioms for the classroom, one of the key elements of Google in education really is that we can make learning magical. The first time that you get 20 kids into a collaborative document, that's magic. They're like, whoa, I can see what he's writing, I can see what she's writing. And that's super empowering. The first time you did it, you probably got super excited.
Looking for a powerful home computer? This is the one. Texas Instruments home computer. With 16K memory, it can take you a long way. Want a computer with a lot of software? Oh, yeah, this is the one. The TI home computer gives you more of these software cartridges than any computer in the world. The whole world. So, with all the power you have here to run all the power here, this is the one. The home computer from Texas Instruments. This is the one.
That's the one, guys. That's the one. Remember? I love that. I love that commercial. Not the least of which, did you catch how much memory that thing had? 16K? You know your iPhone has 1,000,000 times that? 16 gigs? But that's magic, right? Like that's amazing. That's amazing that we can bring that into our classroom now, that we can literally give children that we can give children that kind of access and information. It's amazing. It's amazing to me that we're able to do that. And, and this is all about kind of like, what are you going to be doing today? We're going to be playing with lots of different toys. And don't forget, at any time, just like on Christmas, you're going to be tossing out old stuff, right? Toss it to the back. Get ready for the next idea. Get ready to share something else. Try something new. That's going to be a key of today and tomorrow, is trying something new, pushing past that comfort level, being vulnerable enough to say, what's a MOOC? Gamification is what? Virtual classroom. That sounds sci-fi, right? Ask those questions, because your peers in here will know. Somebody's going to be able to help you out. And when we talk about the tools themselves, Google Apps for Education literally gives you one login with access to all these different tools, all these different collaborative, sharing, publishing tools with one sign-in and one username. We'll be creating forms and spreadsheets, gathering data live and in real time, collaborating on Google Documents together, publishing those, putting them on a Google site if you wish. What's great about Google Tools is that it actually respects that idea of having a cutting room floor still, right? You can have a document that's shared with just you and another colleague, or you and a child, put that on the most public website in the world, and no one's going to be able to see it but you and that child. That cutting room floor is big, because especially if you're talking about being able to put things out and sharing them with everyone, you want to make sure it's the child's best work, right? So have that cutting room floor. Understand today, ask questions. How do I publish while still keeping something private to me and a child? Push for understanding. Ask your session leaders what that looks like. And what are some of the key elements of being a teacher, the caring and compassionate adults? How many of these roles do you say you fit in? How many hats do you wear on a given day? Quite a bit, right? And the funny part is that we're getting beat up still. As teachers, we're getting killed. We walk away, and this is how we feel at the end of the day. Or when we read the newspaper, or when we watch the news, and we hear this about teachers, and about summers off, and all that. Yeah, don't get me started about summers off. Because really, I mean, how much work are we putting in? It's 8 hours with the children, but you're not done then. You can't be done then. You still have planning, you still have documents, you still have grading going on. We're talking 12, maybe some people 16 hours a day. It's a lifestyle teaching. That's a beautiful thing. Don't ever lose a hold of that. Like, our job is not only rewarding both intrinsically, but it also is rewarding to the social good of all. This is what it used to feel like when we turned in grades and sent the report card home to mom and dad. Except this is what it looks like now. We're getting killed. It's all your fault, every one of you. The best is the kid, right? He's like, yeah, Mom, get him. Anyway. And then we have drive-by educational consultants or talking heads that stand up and keynote about things like compassionate adults. But these ideas of like, hey, you're doing this wrong, but they don't know. You know your kids because you care about them. You know that girl in the third row, dad just left the house, right? You know that the boy in the second row hasn't eaten breakfast in three weeks, you know? You know those kids. That's a huge impact, and that's also where we have to be able to push back on people telling us what our job looks like and actually say, no, it's not it. And so just understand. I'll read this for you in the back. It says, hey girl, I love you set aside part of our vacation money just in case you find something interesting, something cute for your classroom while we're away. Way to budget. Hey girl, I don't mind that you have dry eraser marker on your finger. I know it means you didn't want to stop the class momentum to find an eraser. These are all available at the Hey Girl Teacher website. I did not create these, although he is pleasing on the eyes. Right, Tanya? Huh? But we are starting to see like kind of little pockets of celebrating the awesomeness of what we do. There's a movement called the EduWin movement. Anybody heard of this yet? All of you stand up. But the EduWin is like, what did you do today? What was that small victory or that little kind of like, when did you hit your flow? When was the awesomeness just kind of in sync today? Celebrate that. And now there's a community that wants to celebrate it with you. And that's kind of cool. I'm not going to do this, although I love that dance. But post that. Share it with everybody. Because that's kind of like how we start to get our jobs back, our kind of collective efficacy about the fact that what we do is good, is amazing, right? Now, I mentioned the passionately and curious and empowered children. That's big. I believe that children are amazing. This isn't mine. This is the one token shot that's not my kids, right? But they are. Look into those eyes and tell me that you don't care about that kid. And I do. I love kids, like I said.
You can say I love kids. It's a general statement. That's fine. It's when you get specific that you get into trouble. I love 12-year-olds.
I didn't say it. He said it. But I think that what we do and how we do it is really important. And I think that, Plato says this. This is one of the first quotes I found when I was in teacher ed, when we were writing our education philosophy, and the professor said, all right, now you got to have a quote. Okay? So I started Googling teacher quotes. And I came across this, and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to anchor to for my career, is finding that passion of the children. Do not train a child to learn by force or harshness, but direct them to it by what amuses their minds, so that you may better be able to discover with accuracy the peculiar bent of genius of each. Because every child is amazing. I know that's hard to say sometimes, and you high school teachers are looking at me like, no, there's like 2 or 3 that I hate. But you don't mean it, man. You love those kids too. Right? But take the kind of like traditional assignments or something that you may have been doing, maybe the same lesson you've been teaching for 5, 7, 12 years, and start to think about it from the eyes of the child. What would happen if they were in charge of their learning? What if they just were able to run free with it? What if they could just kind of do, build, and play however they wanted? These 3 kids never participated in anything until they were given free rein. And they just built, and they ended up knocking it out of the park. You guys remember this assignment? Any 6th grade teachers here? Okay, a couple, thank you. But this is kind of a staple, and usually the teacher walks through and models it, but if you just let them go, it's amazing what can come out of it. That's not a picture of me that my son drew, that's actually him. But once you kind of start to see how a child sees themselves, then you can start to feed and push them into these environments where they're getting their hands on stuff that they're passionate about, that they care about, that they're curious about. Getting them outside the walls, these walls, and I don't mean just digitally, which is cool, but getting them outside. Outdoor ed is a huge part of that. Get their hands dirty, let them touch things, right? And these authentic learning opportunities do transform learning. But it requires a little bit of us letting go of some things, right? Any control freaks in here? I think this is a perfect yeah, thank you, honest people. This is something that's really hard, right? This is every teacher's first year. Your first year teaching, this is exactly what you feel like. No, I got it. I'm in control. But what are you doing? You're driving right off the edge of the cliff. But letting go of some of that. And I mean autonomy, but not independence. Don't just let them free. They still need us. They still want us. But now we have the capacity to really give them autonomy while still kind of providing supports for them.
Are we asking our kids to collect dots or connect dots? Because we're really good at measuring how many dots they collect, how many facts they have memorized, how many boxes they have filled in. But we teach nothing about how to connect those dots. You cannot teach connecting dots in a dummies manual. You cannot teach connecting dots in a textbook. You can only do it by putting kids into a situation where they can fail. Grades are an illusion. Passion and insight are reality. Your work is more important than your congruence to an answer key. Persistence in the face of a skeptical authority figure is priceless, and yet we undermine it. Fitting in is a short-term strategy that gets you nowhere. Standing out is a long-term strategy that takes guts and produces results. If you care enough about your work to be willing to be criticized for it, then you have done a good day's work.
I couldn't say that any better. So thanks for bearing with me while I stand on the shoulders of people way smarter than me. But I think that sums up a lot, especially with the learning out loud. If you care enough about what you're producing, if you are giving children assignments where they're actually producing something that they care about and they're passionate about, that beats all answer keys, rubrics, hands down, right? That idea of failure, now this goes to the other side sometimes if you go independent. If you set up kids for failure, I don't believe in that. But I think that if they're taking risk, if your classroom environment is set up for failure to take place often, then that's a good thing. Failure is only failure once we stop. For those of you in the back, it says, you know why the Indian rain dances always worked? Because the Indians would keep dancing until it rained. It's only failure when you quit trying. And Churchill says, if you're going through hell, by God, keep going. Get out of there. Same thing with failing. If you can't put it together, keep trying. I am terrible at home improvement projects. I'm awful at them. I can get out the tea, I can knock the nails, everything looks great until we set it up, and then it was a complete disaster. I got to model this for my son twice this summer. Poor guy, he thinks his dad's an idiot now. But we literally took these things apart, and he's like, all right, Dad, it's okay. I was like, oh no, we're gonna try again. And we tried again, and he's like, it's okay, Dad, I'm just gonna get, it was a desk. I'll just get a different desk. I'm like, no, we'll try again. We haven't tried again yet. It's all the wood sitting in a nice little pile, like smiling at me every time I go out to the car. But we're not gonna quit. We have to keep going. C.S. Lewis says it, that feeling when you do something, that brutal kind of failure, that is such a great teacher. Letting kids actually try stuff is really the best teacher. Sometimes the best teacher is not just the act of doing something and failing, but it's the act of doing something, failing, and then having your peer talk to you or teach you about it. That's pretty big. And so we want these innovative, authentic learning opportunities. This idea of kind of this moonshot thinking is what Google calls it. They have this project called Solve for X. It's a radical idea to where we can take whatever the world's craziest problem is. Let's do that, right? But if we focus on the future, if we keep our eyes kind of on the prize where our targets are, then that crazy innovative idea actually has some potential. And if we want to be able to, like, quote unquote, solve for X, then we're going to need to do it together. So I need your help. We're going to find X. Sorry, come on, that's low-hanging fruit. Solve for X.
Let us define X. X is a solution to a seemingly insurmountable problem, like climate change or cancer, one that affects the world. But what if we redefine X as a challenge, an opportunity for radical thinking, a chance to light up the world with breakthrough ideas and cutting-edge technology, the stuff of science fiction that just might fly after all. Solving for X requires wonder and imagination and the vision to build seemingly impossible solutions to the world's biggest problems. Solve for X. Moonshot thinking.
Think about that in your classroom. What's the idea if you teach kindergarten that everybody tells you there's no way kindergartens will be able to do that? Or if you're teaching high school, there's no way high school kids can do that. Think about that and then bring them together and let them chase that answer. This is some of the proposed moonshot, solve for X, crazy ideas that Google has proposed. Everything from inflatable robots. You guys don't think that's crazy? No? Sorry. I think that's crazy. Then there's more, right? This idea of stretchable electronics. Stretchable electronics to be able to flex your computer side to side. We already have wearable tech, which sounds crazy. It sounds the stuff of Dick Tracy, science fiction, Star Trek, right? Or a space elevator. That's not real. They're not going to do that. But they are trying invisible helmets. There's smart people trying to work on these crazy ideas. And it's because instead of hearing no's all the time, they're trying to push for the yes and, right? Any improv folks in here? The yes and is a key element to improv, right? In our classrooms, that's what it should be too. When we're talking about something or kids are exploring something and they say something that you're like, no, that's crazy. Try to say yes, and if you do this, or yes, and have you thought about this? Because that immediately stops them from being shut off and it opens it up. It turns those thumbs down, huh? You like that little? To thumbs up. Thank you, good night, no. This moonshot thinking though, like the self-driving car, that still sounds like it's fake to me. I can't believe that they're doing that. The idea of Google Glass. Do we have any glass wearers in here?
Canada.
Oh, not yet? Oh, it's a sorry, touchy subject. Too soon, Wacker, too soon. Oh. That's Google Glass. No, that's not glass. But this is what it looks like now, in glass.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
This is it. We're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, Glass, hang out with the Flying Club.
Google photos of tiger heads.
You ready? You ready?
Right there. Okay, Glass, take a picture.
That is awesome.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
After this bridge, first exit.
Stay delicious and hot. Arroy.
Google jellyfish. Let's see.
Changes everything, right? Like the idea of not just teaching with technology, but changing what teaching looks like because of technology, or empowering teaching with technology. Samuel Beckett has the idea of failure. You know how many different prototypes they probably went through to get to Google Glass? You know how many times people probably told them no, or that's crazy, that's not going to work, or that's ridiculous? You got to keep pushing past that. It's only failure once you stop. And the mountains seem like they're insurmountable, but it's usually the smallest thing. And that's where your peers can help pick you up, guys. If you're having trouble with something in Google Docs as small as, I can't figure out how to share it with just these 3 people, stand on the shoulders of your peers and friends. You know, we talk about sharing. We talk about needing a little boost. If you guys can see this guy looks like he's just over it. It's like, again, you're trying to get up that curb, dude? When are you going to learn? And so as we learn all these different things today, it's kind of our obligation to not just talk about it, but to push it out and to share it and to connect with your peers and to connect with the folks that weren't able to be here that Todd mentioned. Those connections are what's going to push the collective, you know, our collective profession or your collective school and district. The conversations between us, the connections between us, both digital and face-to-face, are really important. And I say that because we value face-to-face, obviously, right? If this was a Google Hangout, we wouldn't have this kind of turnout. We value the face-to-face. Let's make sure we take advantage of that then. Let's make sure that when we have the children and the adults in the room, that we're not wasting time, that we're really diving deeper and making those real connections and pushing farther. Because our networks can amplify our learning, and they can personalize it for you. You learn what you want to learn when you follow a stream or a hashtag or a unit or a region. It's important to you, so then it's personal, but it's still social. You know, it's that connection, or as Gladwell says, the strength of weak ties. These weak ties can bind us if we really kind of anchor to them. And we're not addicted to our computers. I get so frustrated when I hear those sayings. We were talking amongst us the other day about you know, this idea that once we're done with the conversation with our kids or maybe our students in our class, we notice they'll go straight to their phone, and you'll be like, am I done? I wasn't done. They went straight to their phone, but I told them, I was like, my grandpa did that every time I talked to him, but it was the newspaper. It was like, all right, we're done. Right? It just feels different. It feels rude, but we've been doing this for a long time, this idea of kind of distracting ourselves with media or newspapers. And again, I'm anchoring to a lot of folks in this keynote because they're smarter than me. If we can see further, it's because we're standing on shoulders. Don't start at the baseline. Stack those knowledge nuggets collectively. Get with your peers. What do they know? Then take what they know and build upon it. And then model that for kids. Because once we start to show them what it looks like to connect and stack learning and be able to edit, adapt, modify, kind of this model of build it together idea, it can really change what content delivery looks like, what assessment, what consumption, because we still kind of try to pour the knowledge into children, right? What that looks like as well. These are the places that input and I output to, that feed me and that I try to feed, and it's because I'm selfish. I want to learn more. I want to be able to go to YouTube and learn how to tie a tie or how to... That was a while ago. You notice I'm not wearing a tie, though. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to connect with folks and ask questions and do all these different things. Scott said something last night at dinner that I was like, that's perfect. Because if we can open our door just a little bit, it's amazing how much we get back. When we start to share just a little bit, it's amazing what comes back to us. And that's, again, that's empowering to children. So thank you, Scott. That really opened my eyes last night. Appreciate that, you sharing that. Are you part of your community yet? Get in there. Because I know that a lot of folks are going to be sharing content and resources and conversations and all these things in this community. You have one now. Take advantage of it. This is, Dean Sharesky says, I'm a huge fan, he's a good friend of mine, but he says that sharing is our moral imperative as teachers now. Like, it's our obligation to share. And he has this quote where he opened up the K-12 conference with this quick little clip. I'm not going to show the whole thing, do a time.
Derivative.
What would your playlist look like? Where are your feeds coming from? Who are you connecting to and learning from on a daily basis? Because that's important, surrounding yourself with good people. Hopefully you sat next to somebody smart. If you didn't, don't look at them, because that's going to be awkward. But understand that in your sessions today. Sit by each other, ask questions, start to network, start to make these connections. Because sharing, as much as we talk about it and we want to say go out and do it, it is not a natural behavior. This was like the third take. The first two was of Mackenzie actually knocking Drew to the ground. Like, no! And I was like, oh, come on, please just share it with him once. And you can see, she's looking at it like, take a small bite. But it's not a natural behavior. So it's something that we can learn, though. And it's something that we can get comfortable with. This idea of sharing and doing things for the social good. Once kids kind of, quote unquote, like level up, if a child shows mastery, let them level up. Let them then do a service learning project. This says money for charity, in case you can't see it. Right? What a nice kid. He emptied out, I took it for coffee the next day, though. No. I mean, I wish I could say this is me. This is my wife. She's amazing. But, I mean, my son's already starting to think about that outside his kind of circle, you know. Our students are craving that. They're online with, and if you ask them, 5th grade up, I bet you can ask them, who are some of your friends? Do you know anybody in Germany? And they probably do. You know why? Xbox, right? They're playing on Xbox. They're playing these massive open online games with people from all over. And they consider them friends. That is networking. Okay? So they're already starting to get there. We can help them. And David Wiley says, if there is no sharing, there's no teaching. That's what we do. We share knowledge. We share information. We share experiences. We have to share. We have to get comfortable with it. And it's about overcoming that inner 2-year-old that screams, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. This feels like a good time to let you know that everything that we share today with the EdTech teams, I can speak for us, is completely Creative Commons license. You are free to steal it, remix it, edit it, modify it, adapt it, share it with your colleagues. Please steal these presentations. Right? Yeah. Because it's not mine. And I have some decks that you might see that I call them the Frankenstein decks, because there's like a slide from this one, I got this one from a friend, this one from a friend. But kind of this idea of collectively sharing is uncomfortable, but it can push us to the next level. So everything that we have, including plugforedtechteam.com, the website, is all free. It's all free to use. Please do. And so administrators, support the shift. Help us. Help us help you, right? Because you'll look good if we start to share. You might get on the blog. and again, Seth Godin, who I didn't give him credit before, that was that video that we watched where he said, are we collecting or connecting dots? The easiest thing to do is react. We can always react. The next thing is to respond, but to initiate and start something is really big. So what can we launch? What are you prepared to launch? What are you going to try? What's your crazy idea? If we keep trying things we don't know, we keep learning. It never stops. So be prepared that whatever you learn today, take it back to your class on Monday and launch it and try it and fail in front of the children. No. But you might, and that's okay. Because when we're launching and we're trying things, one, it's super exciting. It feeds us, right, internally. But also, it models for the kids that it's okay to try something that you might not have done before. And this is really big with our gifted and talented kiddos. They are frightened to try something that they've never done or that they're not going to be really good at, but we have to eliminate those barriers. Because those kids are wicked smart, but we need to get them to be wicked reckless sometimes with their innovation. Try things that aren't new. And balance that fear with hope. That idea of kind of, I'm so scared, I don't want to do this, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to try it, and I hope it turns out okay. Or, wow, this was way better than I thought. I'm going to go share it with my colleagues. Because my dad used to, my dad used to always say this quote. Everybody talks about the weather, and at the time I was like, what do you mean nobody does anything about it? I didn't get it until I was a dad myself, until like now when I come and I get to talk to you guys. It's the idea of kind of just complaining without doing something about it. So if you see something, try it, push past it, try something new. Because you are bringing something beautiful to your classroom. There's a reason why you're there. Whether you want to say that that's a higher power or timing or what have you, karma, there's a reason why you're in these children's lives. Take advantage of that because it's really important to you and to them. So that's a Google Chrome commercial. And But it really is. It's so good, and it's so true. This idea of sharing and pushing past. And I just want to say one more time, like these kids that are coming to your class, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's brother. Love them. Love on them. They need you. They need us. And we can do it. Let's do it together. Thank you, guys.